You're watching Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read. This week we're introducing 1984, The Battle of Amritsar, Volume 1. This is a small children's book that was published in 2018 in softback and was produced by the people at Sikh Youth UK, 1984tribute and NeverForget84.com. This is unlike any other book that we have introduced and recommended that people need to go out and read. It is, some might even say, not really even a book, little more than a small short form booklet or pamphlet. In actual fact, this is a very intriguing read, and I have been devouring the content that is produced in this book and the issues pertaining to that content now for well over 8 months since I got a hold of this copy. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, the story that is being retold here is one that many people will already be very familiar with. It pertains to the invasion of the Darbar Sahib by the Indian state in June of 1984. The content being reproduced here talks about the reasons leading up to why the Indian state invaded, and then talks about the act of invasion itself, following up with a small amount of conclusions on how the Sikh community worldwide tried to proceed from this event. And without a doubt, the most unique element of this book is that it is aimed at children. You can tell from the cover artwork that this is going to be an illustrated story regaling what took place in 1984. But it's when you delve inside that you can start to see why it is an interesting and very intriguing concept, and a book that I personally think every Sikh who has an interest in the events of 1984 needs to look at. Not necessarily so that they're gaining new information, but to actually ask themselves more questions. Those questions range from the quite obvious, how do we explain to a younger audience what took place in 1984, right through to quite deep and meaningful questions to ask ourselves about how we understand Sikh concepts such as hukam, what is good and what is evil. The narrative shared in this book is spread across 13 different pages. On each one, an illustration is the backdrop of the entire double spread canvas, whilst a few sentences simplify an element of the events that took place or led up to June 1984. The book closes on the final page with a very simple glossary. Now, coupled together, all of this was produced, as I understand it, by the publishers to share the story of what took place in June 1984 with a younger audience. And to many great levels, it actually does that, and it does it very well. It simplifies the story. Some people might argue that this book oversimplifies what took place. Others might have an issue with the graphic nature of one or two of the pages and the depictions in particular of some of the characters. However, I don't agree with those thought processes. I think what the publishers have put on the back cover, reading that please continue to research what happened in 1984, as this book contains basic information, is a necessary and very valid warning for people picking up this book. This should not be what you understand about 1984 in totality. However, it should be a base level from which you start to consider how you are going to understand those events and in what context you're going to then try to explain them to either younger children, teenagers, young adults, or somebody who's completely new to the story. As an educator myself, with almost 25 years of experience engaging the Sikh community, I've never shied away from talking about the events of the invasion of Darbar Sahib, June 1984, whether it's with a younger audience, an older audience, an audience that's receptive to what I'm saying, or an audience that completely disagrees with my viewpoint. However, what a book like this has done is open up my eyes to how it is that I am transmitting to the younger generation that is growing up today. I'm going to stress again, I think that this book is a really intriguing concept, and it's something from which we now as a community need to build. I would certainly hope that the publishers of this work would look to try and produce something similar again and revise what they've done here or build upon it for perhaps a very specific audience of young people, or perhaps taking just one or two of the elements that they've covered here in the lead up to 1984 and elaborating on them. Whether those publishers do that or somebody else takes it on, this work is the one that has instigated that. And for that, the publishers and the authors of this work should be commended. I should certainly add that the illustrations are very colourful, very appropriate for the subject matter that's being covered, and perhaps almost get lost behind the gravity of the story that is being told. And so I would personally really commend the illustrator for having depicted the works in such an engaging way. But we want to know what you think, so please leave us a comment below and share your thoughts on 1984, The Battle of Amritsar, Volume 1. Make sure you subscribe so that we see you here again on the Naujawani YouTube channel for more cover to cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read.